Picture this. You're standing in a cave. The year is 40,000 BC, and smoke is curling up into the cold stone ceiling. Across the flames is someone you've been completely, utterly, and not so subtly staring at for 3 straight days. They're just sitting there, totally unaware that they've entirely captured your prehistoric attention.
You don't actually have the words for what you're feeling yet. Language hasn't caught up to your biology. All you know is that your heart is doing something genuinely weird inside your chest. There is no texting. There is no casual, "Hey, what are you up to?" slide into the DMs. Instead, you just keep inventing terrible excuses to walk past their side of the camp.
It's a game of raw proximity and brief, intense eye contact, and a whole lot of pure, unadulterated hoping. That was the baseline of human romance for thousands of generations, until right now. Now, let's fast forward dynamic speeds straight to the present day. Remember, we are dealing with the exact same biological species here. We possess the exact same brain structure, wired with the exact same instincts. And we have the exact same heart, doing that exact same weird, nervous flutter. Except instead of looking across a campfire, this person is staring into a small, glowing rectangle, casually flicking their thumb sideways over and over again. And rejecting 43 living, breathing humans? In the exact amount of time it took their ancestor to just work up the nerve to say hello. Welcome to romance in 2026. It's fast, efficient, and slightly terrifying. But what happens when these two worlds collide? This is the story of what an actual Paleolithic human, teleported right into the modern day, handed a glowing smartphone and shown a modern dating app, would actually think. And the answer is a lot stranger, funnier, and more unsettling than you'd expect. Because here's the big secret. Dating apps don't feel new to our brains, they feel ancient. We didn't change our nature, we just built a high-tech machine. A machine that finally scales up what we've always done, at a massive industrial scale. It's the exact same vetting process we used to do quietly around cave fires. And in crowded village squares for over 100,000 years. 100 millennia of matching compressed into software. Let's dig into how that ancient programming actually works. First, the obvious question. Did ancient humans even date? Not with dinner and a movie, no. But mate selection is definitely not a modern invention. It's one of the oldest problems our species ever had to solve, right alongside finding food and running from predators. Evolutionary psychologists will tell you your brain is constantly running compatibility calculations in the background. It's constantly scanning for health, tracking resources, and evaluating social status. And it even tracks who smells genetically compatible enough to produce strong, disease-resistant kids. Scientists call this biological scanning system the MHC complex. Your DNA has been running a matching algorithm long before we ever had words to describe it. Tinder didn't invent the algorithm. It just moved it from your nose directly to your thumb. So the concept makes sense to a caveman, but the execution? That's a different story. Sizing up a stranger for pairing potential? Our time traveler gets that completely. That's just a normal Tuesday. What would absolutely break their prehistoric brain is the sheer, ungodly volume of it all. See, for almost all of human history, your entire dating pool was just your immediate village. We're talking maybe 200 people total, max, and you knew every single one of them. You watched them grow up from toddlers. There were absolutely no surprises. Mating wasn't even an individual choice. It was a group decision negotiated for clan diplomacy.
For centuries, the literal matchmaking algorithm was just your grandmother. Now, hand that person a phone with 4,000 strangers within a 10-mile radius. Each one summarized in 6 photos and a bio saying, "Here for a good time, not a long time." Our nervous systems weren't built for this. It's sensory overload wearing a trench coat. Behavioral science calls this the paradox of choice. More options does not make us happier. It actually makes us incredibly anxious, deeply hesitant, and completely unable to commit. Why commit when a theoretically better match is always just one single swipe away? Furthermore, our ancient ancestor wouldn't understand the concept of rejection at this scale. In their world, rejecting someone was a major public social event with lasting consequences. But on an app, rejection is entirely silent. It is completely invisible, slipping away into the background digital noise. And it's completely consequence-free. You can dismiss hundreds of people in a single day. You can break 40 hearts before breakfast and never once have to watch a single face fall. It turns courtship into a game of ghosts. Speaking of games, let's look at the actual physics of the swipe. There is something embarrassingly primal about it. Swipe right. Maybe you get a match. Maybe a bright, flashy animation plays on screen. Maybe your phone gives a satisfying little buzz. That buzz is doing something highly specific. It's providing an intermittent reward. You don't know which swipe will win. This is the exact same underlying mechanism that makes casino slot machines so addictive. It floods your brain with dopamine, not when you get the reward, but in the anticipation right before. The thrill is entirely in the not knowing what comes next. Casino designers and dating app creators are running the exact same neurological playbook. Our ancient traveler would recognize this feeling instantly. It's the thrill of an uncertain hunt. We didn't build a new form of pleasure. We just built a machine to fire the old one thousands of times a day. But here is the twist that would completely stop our time traveler in their tracks. In the ancient world, courtship signals were almost impossible to fake. Status was visible. You couldn't lie about who you were. The whole village would know you were full of it within a week. A dating profile is the exact opposite. It's a completely curated highlight reel. It is meticulously filtered, cleverly angled, and styled by the one person incentivized to look perfect. We've traded deep human intuition for 5 photos and a supposedly witty caption. Anthropologically speaking, we have completely stripped away every single honest biological signal. Things like voice, posture, or how someone actually treats a waiter when no one is looking. Our ancestor would ask a completely reasonable question. How do you know this person is even real? And honestly, that remains an incredibly good question to this very day. Then there is the sheer speed. Traditional courtship traditionally took months, if not entire years. Compatibility was forged slowly through shared crisis, heavy labor, and changing seasons. Modern apps compress that entire ancient social process into a 90-second back and forth. We infer an entire personality based on a caption about tacos and weekend hiking. Nobody prepared our nervous systems to pick a life partner in 4 seconds while waiting for coffee. We've seen this movie before. Think of how tobacco went from a slow, sacred ritual to a mass product. Dating apps are built on a business model that depends on you not finding love too quickly. Churn is bad for business. The modern tech executive optimizes a swipe loop purely using cold corporate A/B testing. While the ancient tribal shaman pulled emotional levers with deep cultural reverence, separated by millennia, they are both pulling the exact same behavioral lever. So, what's the final verdict? The core goal of the app makes total instant sense to our traveler. The desire to find a partner is older than human language itself.
It is a biological drive that is significantly older than the invention of fire. But the digital mechanism? To them, it would look less like romance and more like a brilliant, glowing trap. Not because our desires are broken, but because they are so ancient, they are effortlessly easy to hijack. Because that absolute flutter you feel when someone finally likes you back? That primal hope that someone will look across the fire and choose you out of the crowd? That isn't a modern digital concept. That is the oldest psychological software we've got. We didn't change who we are. We just keep building newer, faster hardware to run it on. So keep swiping. Your inner caveman is right there with you.